Uh, and Dr. Santosh is our medical gastroenterologist. I think, yeah, he has also joined in. Welcome, Santosh.
Hi, sir.
Good evening, Santosh.
Good evening, sir.
MNV ಬರ್ತಾರಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ?
Mostly
he won't join.
he won't come.
Okay.
Santosh, you can pitch in. You will also be co-moderating with me. You can pitch in whenever you want to ask questions and also
Sure,
clarify
sir.
on things.
Okay.
Yeah. Indraja, you can start off.
Yes, sir. Good evening to everyone. I'm Dr. Indraja, second year surgery resident in Saga Hospital. Today, I'm going to discuss about the cirrhosis of liver. I'm going to discuss about the etiology, pathogenesis, and the diagnosis of the cirrhosis of the liver in this class, and management I will discuss in the next class. Cirrhosis, the term first coined by the René Linné. The word cirrhosis was derived from the Greek word, which means skyros. It is a tanny to describe orange, yellow, or tan color of the diseased liver. And the pathogenesis of the cirrhosis of the liver, first explained by the Russell, and he also explained the terms such as parenchymal degeneration, and scarring. Cirrhosis, it is a morphological change most oftenly associated with chronic liver disease, and it refers to the diffuse transformation of the liver into regenerative parenchymal nodules surrounded by the fibrous bands. This is the normal liver, and this is the cirrhotic liver with a nodular appearance. The prevalence of the cirrhosis is estimated about 0.15% or around 4 lakhs in the population of the USA, and it accounted for more than 25,000 deaths and 3,70,000 hospital discharges. And the high prevalence of undiagnosed cirrhosis was mainly seen in non-alcoholic steatohepatitis and infection with hepatitis C virus. There are the different etiologies of this etiology of the cirrhosis. These includes metabolic causes, drug-induced and autoimmune disorders, and genetic disorders. Metabolic causes mainly includes non-alcoholic steatohepatitis and in the toxin induced mostly caused by the alcoholic liver disease. And infectious disease includes viral hepatitis by hepatitis C and hepatitis B virus. And autoimmune disorders includes primary sclerosing cholangitis and primary biliary cirrhosis and autoimmune hepatitis. And there are different genetic causes which includes Wilson's disease, hemochromatosis, and alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. And in some cases, the diagnosis may be unknown, that is known as cryptogenic cirrhosis.
Just a minute,
yes,
Indraja.
Yes, sir.
Santosh, can you please clarify? Is cryptogenic cirrhosis is a separate entity, or is it the end stage of NASH and NAFLD?
So that when we don't have any clear etiology, we put it as cryptogenic. Because sometimes even if we trace back the history of the patients, they may not be having metabolic syndrome. So that is an entirely different thing. But sometimes it is used, the term is used interchangeably. Like some people classify NASH itself as cryptogenic, but that's not the right thing to do, I think.
Okay. So if progression of NAFLD and NASH to cirrhosis is a recognized pathway, but the thing is, the cryptogenic cirrhosis is not one of the associations then.
Yes, that's what I'm telling.
Yeah. So cryptogenic cirrhosis, there is no known etiology or anything. When you don't know anything, then you say cryptogenic or primary.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Because I was under the false impression that one of the reasons cryptogenic cirrhosis happens is progression of NASH.
I think Indraja can continue further.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In Western world, the most common cause of the cirrhosis is alcoholic liver disease and hepatitis C virus. And in Asia and African countries, it is hepatitis B infection. And non-alcoholic steatohepatitis mostly seen in obese and diabetic individuals.
Wait.
Yes,
is it
sir.
true, Santosh? Asia is still hepatitis B, or alcohol is also a significant, especially in an Indian context? Hello?
Santosh?
1 second. Hello. Yeah, in India, hepatitis B and alcohol both are more common. Alcoholic is more common. In the eastern part of India, Bangladesh and all, there still the hepatitis B is more common than
Okay.
alcohol.
Continue.
Yes, sir. And there are several risk factors to develop the cirrhosis. These includes a regular alcohol consumption and age above 50 years, and male gender is as a risk factor in chronic hepatitis C infection, obesity, and insulin resistance, like type 2 diabetes mellitus, hypertension, and hyperlipidemia, which is known as metabolic syndrome. There is cirrhosis is divided based on the morphology into 3 categories. These includes micronodular, macronodular, and mixed cirrhosis. The micronodular cirrhosis is characterized by nodules that are less than 3 mm in diameter. The different causes, which include micronodular cirrhosis or alcoholic liver disease, hemochromatosis, cholestatic causes of cirrhosis, and hepatic venous outflow obstruction. Macronodular cirrhosis is characterized by nodules more than 3 mm in diameter. It is seen in chronic viral hepatitis, hemochromatosis, and Wilson's disease. And mixed cirrhosis, it is a stage from micronodular to macronodular cirrhosis. During this transformation, it is known as mixed cirrhosis, and it is seen in Indian childhood cirrhosis. Coming to the pathogenesis of the cirrhosis of the liver, it includes the following steps like inflammation, hepatic stellate cell activation, angiogenesis, and fibrosis. Sorry, I'm explaining. In the pathogenesis of the cirrhosis of the liver, the initial trigger is hepatocyte injury by several factors that leads to the apoptosis of the hepatocytes. These apoptotic bodies and damaged associated proteins activates the quiescent hepatic stellate cells that are present in the space of Disse. These activated hepatic stellate cells further activates the Kupffer cells present in the sinusoidal endothelial cells, leads to the release of inflammatory mediators that leads to the accumulation of the extracellular matrix in the space of the Disse. In normal liver, type 4 collagen present in the space of Disse, but in cirrhosis, type 1 and type 3 seen in the space of Disse, these collagen fibers cross-link and which build up a network that is resistant to the fibrolysis. When this is a flow chart showing when normal liver
you skipped a few slides, Indraja.
Yes, sir, the pathogenesis I explained there. The repeat parenchymal injury of injury to the hepatocytes leads to the apoptosis and phagocytosis of the apoptotic cells and inflammation that leads to the activation of the Kupffer cells that are sinusoidal macrophages and endothelial cells, platelets, and leukocytes. The role of activated hepatic stellate cells. The proliferated activated hepatic stellate cells in the areas of the parenchymal necrosis due to the high mitogenic capacity that leads to the secretion of the pro-inflammatory cytokines and chemokines. This leads to synthesis of the large panel of the matrix proteins and inhibitors of the matrix degradation that finally leads to the progressive fibrosis and scar formation. And when normal liver exposure...
So just go back, just yes, explain to me,
yes,
what
sir.
is this HSC?
Hepatic stellate cells, sir.
What are they? Are they normally present or are they only present in cirrhosis?
No, sir, they're normally present in this space of disease, sir, inactive state. When exposed to the, when hepatocytes are injured, these cells will activate, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. When normal liver exposed to the different etiological factors that leads to the development of the steatosis and hepatosis, on repeated exposure leads to the cirrhosis.
Indraja, there is a question.
Yes, sir.
Wait. Madam is asking, Naz Madam is asking, what makes the formation of macro and micronodules?
Don't know.
I'm not sure, sir.
Anyone else? Hari?
I don't know, sir.
Sir, sir, injury to hepatocytes can lead to proliferation of the cells. That can lead to nodule formation, sir.
No,
I
but
think-
why micronodular, why macronodular?
Macron. That is what madam is asking.
No, I'm not sure, sir.
Because the specific injuries lead to specific nodules.
Yes, sir.
Only, according to Indraja, only Indian childhood cirrhosis, you have mixed nodularity. Otherwise, it's always micronodular separately, macronodular separately. I think Santosh should answer that question.
So why certain etiology leads to micro and macro, I'm not very sure. But this classification is mainly
And the
a
size of
patho-
the
path-
nodule. Mr. Ansita.
yeah, it's mainly a pathological classification at the time of transplant or at the time of autopsy, what they found out. Maybe I'll have to read up and maybe I'll try to clarify.
Okay.
Ma'am?
No, I'm also not very sure about it. I was just thinking whether it was a diffuse injury uniformly causing micronodular cirrhosis, and then if it is injury in different places, like patchy injury causing micronodular cirrhosis. I had probably this explanation. I just wanted a clarification.
I also have looked into literature, but there is nowhere there clearly mentioned why it happens like that. But macronodular, most often it is viral. That's what I read. Why it happens like that, I also don't know. Santosh, is it right? Viral, most of them will be macro.
Yeah, that's what she has mentioned is right. But the exact reason why it happens is something not very sure. I'm not very sure.
Is there any surgical significance?
I don't think there is any significance.
No surgical significance.
Yeah.
It's probably just to ascertain the etiology. Maybe we can, if there is macronodular, probable most of the time the etiology will be viral.
The people with cirrhosis are at risk of HCC. And
so that is why viral hepatitis.
Some regenerative nodules may be confused for the HCC, the early HCC. So
I think, so Santosh, correct me if I'm wrong. Alcoholic cirrhosis also leads to malignancy, but hepatitis is probably more prone to developing malignancy. Is that right?
Yeah, more viral hepatitis B and C, then NASH, and then alcohol.
Alcohol, yeah, that is why. So basically, if you have macronodular cirrhosis, you are more prone to developing tumor. I think also, as Santosh has pointed out, there is also this confusion. You can get confused between early tumor and macronodules also. So in that situation, I think you will have to depend on alpha fetoprotein, because alpha fetoprotein will hopefully be raised in malignancy as opposed to just a macronodular cirrhosis.
Correct. If it is more than 200 units, then there is more chance of malignancy in these patients.
Correct. Continue, I think, Indraja.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the mechanism of alcoholic liver disease, the consumed ethanol is oxidized to acetaldehyde and acetate through the alcohol dehydrogenase pathway. The acetaldehyde which was produced, it is toxic to the liver and it inhibits repair of alkylated nucleoproteins, and it impairs the mitochondrial oxygenation, decreases the activity of several enzymes, and it increases the toxic effects of the free radicals. And the NADH produced during this process, it inhibits the both Krebs cycle and fatty acid oxidation that leads to the subsequent steatosis. And in heavy drinkers, there is increased activity of the cytochrome P2E1 that leads to the increased activity of the increased activity of reactive oxygen species and lipid peroxidation and mitochondrial damage, with which further worsens the oxidative stress within the cell. These are the different steps in the alcoholic liver disease. Healthy liver, when exposed to the alcohol, there is accumulation of the fat inside that leads to the steatosis, and further exposure leads to the liver cirrhosis, and about 1 to 2% of the patients will develop hepatocellular carcinoma.
Indraja, what
Yes,
are
sir.
fast acetylators and slow acetylators, and what is the significance?
Sir, I'm not sure, sir.
Anybody in the audience? Students? See, the question is relevant because there are people who drink very heavily and don't develop cirrhosis. And then there are people who don't drink that much but develop cirrhosis. So that is dependent on this fast acetylation and slow acetylation.
The way
Santosh.
metabolism, sir.
Santosh, correcta Nijanadu?
Yeah, there's still, I mean, as we have read that in our pharmacology classes,
Yeah.
there is a genomic evidence that at the gene level, some people are fast acetylators and some are slow acetylators.
Yeah.
That in turn leads to accumulation of the metabolites and in turn toxins, and they are more prone for cirrhosis.
Cirrhosis, yeah. So that is again in people who have a lot of hair on their chest, apparently they can drink quite their heart's content and they don't develop cirrhosis. So that is another link to patients who are fast accelerators and slow accelerators. I think Naz asks a question that alcohol in small quantities is good. I think all drinkers in this group will support that evidence. Shrikant, Yenapa?
No comments.
But this fast acetylators, that is rapid and slow, is it
Yeah.
also related to this one, race? Because African and Caucasians are supposed to be slow acetylators,
Yeah.
and Asians are rapid acetylators.
Correct.
Shall I continue, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, for a fast accelerator.
This is the image showing the different histological different stages in the histology of the alcoholic liver disease. Initially steatosis that leads to the ballooning of the hepatocytes, and finally fibrosis. And non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, this is the hepatic manifestation of the metabolic syndrome, and there are multiple factors involving in this, is mostly insulin resistance and obesity. And progress to non-alcoholic steatohepatitis due to the increased inflammation, oxidative stress, apoptosis, and adipokine dysfunction. Insulin resistance enhances the triglyceride lipolysis. It inhibits esterification of the free fatty acids and inhibits free fatty acid oxidation. When it comes to the viral hepatitis.
No, just a minute.
Yes,
just
sir.
a minute.
Yes, sir.
Why are you jumping? Hari, what is the significance of NAFLD and NASH? If we nowadays ultrasound, you have 3D ultrasound, contrast enhanced ultrasound, and you also have elastography. All these things are being done, and lot of patients are being recognized to have fatty liver. So if patient comes to you with ultrasound report, how will you counsel them? What should you do?
Sir, observation, sir, not getting into, sir. Not sure, sir.
Not sure. Janani?
Sir, they're more prone for cirrhosis and sir. We should ask them to come for repeated visits.
Why are you? There is a lot of
echo
from your thing.
So now, sir, hello. Sir,
Better. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Hello.
I think we have lost her completely. Santosh, if patient comes with the this scan report, so we usually send them to you. So what is your line
Yeah.
of thinking and how do you
Santosh,
advise?
before Santosh answers, almost
So this
90-95% of the scans will be showing mild fatty liver.
Correct.
So should we take it
Yeah.
seriously or not? If liver function tests are normal, because majority of these master health checkup scans, invariably all the reports will have mild fatty liver.
Correct. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಕೇಳಿದ question.
Yes. Santosh.
So we need to classify this grading of fatty liver on ultrasound is subjective. It is dependent on the sonologist. So that's why the objective way of analyzing the fatty liver and the stiffness came, and that's how the elastography and fibroscan have come into picture, where proper reading is given. Now, not just imaging, we need to see the whole picture, the liver function test, patient's metabolic profile, if he has any high cholesterol, high triglyceride levels, a poorly controlled diabetes. So if these things are there, then they should be advised medications and lifestyle changes, weight loss, which will go in a long way to prevent fibrosis and cirrhosis.
What are the medications?
For non-alcoholic steatohepatitis,
like mild fatty liver,
there are certain medications which the proven medicines are vitamin E, and recently there is a new drug called saroglitazar, so which has been recently approved and which we have been seeing good responses after 4 to 6 months of treatment.
So briefly, Santosh, on elastography and fibroscan, what are the gradings we are worried about? What are the gradings you think patient needs regular follow-up and your constant surveillance?
That is not, sir. That is basically elastography is something which measures the stiffness. It can be done by an ultrasound machine. It can be done by a fibroscan machine, which is a dedicated machine to detect the the stiffness. Then there is something called as MR elastography, where MRI machines with extra added software can give accurate reading of the stiffness. So basically what we do is if the patient has high risk features like metabolic syndrome, poorly controlled diabetes and dyslipidemia, we do a baseline fibroscan, put them on regular medication and lifestyle management, weight loss, repeat the fibroscan after 6 months or 1 year. So there's no point in doing the fibroscan every 3 months. It takes some time for the fibrosis to see some change in the fibrosis.
Yeah.
Now in the fibroscan, it is graded as F0 to F4, F0, F1, F2, F3, and F4. A person who is on F3 or F4, we should be more cautious because those are the patients who are going to progress to cirrhosis in a very near future.
Okay.
So otherwise, if the patient has F0 or F1 fibrosis, we may not put them on medicines. We just ask them to maintain, lose weight or maintain the weight.
Yeah, lifestyle modification. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And what percentage of these mild fatty livers you send them for fibroscans? You will send them only if they have metabolic syndrome and altered LFT, or
main thing is
yes,
any SGPT elevation.
Okay.
So ideally we should be sending only if it's more than 2 times, but if it's 1.5 times or 1.5 to 2 times also, we do it. Okay. And one other thing which we gastroenterologists see is the platelet count. If we go back and see the patient's platelet count over the years, it would be somewhere 2.2. Gradually it becomes 1.8 and 1.6. with
dropping
most
platelets
of
is
the
an
mass and checkups, 1.6 is ignored. For
okay.
us, it is very important.
So dropping platelet count is also an indicator then.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what is the brand name of the drug which you just mentioned?
Sir, I think this class was meant for mainly the.
Yeah, correct.
I
No,
think
no,
the
you
treatment
said the
part is
drug,
in the
no,
next class they
because
have told. So.
yeah, we'll come to the treatment part in the next class. Yeah. Continue, Indraja.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Hepatitis C is an RNA virus. It causes chronic infection in 80% of the patients and in cirrhosis in 15% of the patients. It mainly affects the hepatocytes, and it interact with the hepatic lipid metabolism, leads to the inflammation and steatosis, and it also activate hepatic stellate cells that leads to the fibrosis. And in viral hepatitis, it also induce immune system mediated liver damage. It disrupts both innate and adaptive immunity. This immunity tries to eradicate the virus, but if it is unsuccessful, it promotes the hepatocyte damage that leads to the fibrosis. In Wilson's disease, it is a rare autosomal recessive disorder caused by mutation of the ATP7B gene. It leads to the impaired copper excretion into the bile that leads to inability to incorporate copper into the cellular plasmin. The accumulation of copper in liver and other organs that causes the damage, and it causes toxic liver injury through the reactive oxygen species. Hemochromatosis, it is a homozygous recessive disorder. It is characterized by the toxic accumulation of the iron in the parenchymal cells of the liver and other vital organs. Hemochromatosis mainly includes, it is a triad of micronodular cirrhosis, diabetes mellitus, and skin pigmentation. This is the flowchart showing the etiology of the cirrhosis, different etiologies of the cirrhosis and pathology and complications like ascites, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, varices, and in end-stage patients will develop hepatic encephalopathy, hepatorenal syndrome, and in last hepatocellular carcinoma. The diagnosis of the cirrhosis by clinical examination, laboratory findings, and radiological and biopsy findings. Most of the patients are asymptomatic, and most of the patients are incidentally detected on imaging studies. Patients will have fatigue, malaise, and anorexia, that is loss of appetite and reduced libido, nausea, and weight loss. In decompensated liver disease, most of the patients will have edema, ascites, and easy bruising and poor concentration and memory. And patients in decompensated liver disease, patients will develop complications such as spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, portal hypertension that leads to the varicose hemorrhage, encephalopathy, hepatorenal syndrome, and liver cancer. There are different signs in the cirrhosis. These includes most of the patients will have jaundice and easy bruising, palmar erythema, and a spinal angiomata and telangiectasias, and abdomen. There is abdominal distension and caput medusa, that is dilatation of the vessels in around the umbilical region. And patients will have some patients will have testicular atrophy, and some patients will develop hepatic encephalopathy. These includes alteration of the mental status, confusion, and coma. This is the image showing the different complications of because of the cirrhosis of the liver. The diagnosis of the cirrhosis of liver by laboratory investigations, imaging studies.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if you go back to the physical signs.
Yes, sir.
In the abdominal examination, what all do you expect? I mean, is there anything that you have missed?
You missed something, no, Indraja?
So patients will have ascites, sir. Ascites and dilated vessels around the umbilicus. And
what happens to the liver and spleen?
So splenomegaly and hepatomegaly.
Hepatomegaly or shrunken liver.
Sorry, shrunken liver and splenomegaly, sir.
Okay, so how do you come to know about the shrunken liver? What is liver span?
You have to measure the.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Tell.
You should
mention.
measure the liver span. Sometimes splenomegaly may not be a gross splenomegaly, so you may have to percuss in the drop space.
Yes.
Santosh,
Dullness
can
in the
there be
drop.
in macronodular cirrhosis? Can there be hepatomegaly also, like in certain individuals, or
Yeah, it
there
can be
overlap?
there, sir.
Yeah, or overlapping HCC.
That's what in alcoholic hepatitis with cirrhosis and HCC with cirrhosis, it's grossly enlarged. But if you take only pure cirrhosis case, liver may not be palpable. The left lobe may be palpable because there is volume distribution. The
Compensatory
right,
caudate lobe hypertrophy.
yeah, right lobe gets shrunken. The left lobe is enlarged. So left lobe may be palpable.
Correct. Yes.
There is
So I
also
think
parotid enlargement. I think that is another thing that is very peculiar to this one. I think especially alcoholics, bilateral parotid enlargement.
I think most of one more thing is the most of the patients with ascites also have umbilical hernia. So,
hernia, gynecomastia. You have forgotten to mention gynecomastia.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Gynecomastia will be there. Parotid enlargement, loss of pubic hair, testicular atrophy, as you mentioned. Okay.
I think you can go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Is that okay, sir?
Yeah. Yes.
Hepatic flap. You have not mentioned flap.
Tremor.
Flap. Tremors. Hepatic flap. Flapping tremor.
Okay, sir. Can I continue, sir?
Yeah.
The diagnosis depends upon the laboratory investigations, imaging studies that includes ultrasound abdomen and pelvis, CT and MRI and fibroscan and biopsy. That is a confirmatory diagnosis. Laboratory test includes measurement of serum bilirubin levels and abnormal aminotransferase, elevated alkaline phosphatase and gamma glutamyl transpeptidase, prolonged prothrombin time and thrombocytopenia. This is a image showing the different tests. Like general laboratory testings includes liver function test and complete blood count. And in specific laboratory testings, these includes hepatitis serology, that is hepatitis B and hepatitis C virus, and auto antibodies testing to rule out the autoimmune disease. In specific cases, the invasive studies include liver biopsy, ultrasound abdomen and pelvis.
One second.
Yes,
Santosh, in auto antibody testing, what do you ask for specifically? ANA profile complete or anything specific?
No, the other antibodies, they're not of much significance for us. So whatever is mentioned there, smooth muscle antigen, anti-LKM, soluble liver antigen.
What I wanted to ask you is, you ask them specifically, like separately, or you ask for an auto antibody profile?
In some of the labs, they have autoimmune hepatitis panel.
Okay.
So they'll do ANA and other three or four autoantibody specific to autoimmune hepatitis.
Okay.
So if the lab doesn't have that panel, we have to mention it separately.
Other thing is about viral hepatitis. What are the things for you to prognosticate? You know, the viral load, the anti-HBsAg antibodies, and hepatitis C core antigen, all these things. Can you just elaborate what are the things you usually ask for?
Sir, we usually ask for surface antigen and anti-HCV. Once surface antigen is positive, we ask for E antigen, HBV DNA levels.
Yeah.
And very rarely the patient may be having surface antigen negative, but total anti-HB core antibody, that is something that may be positive, and that indicates that patient had previously infection and he has cleared the infection. So those people may also later in their life may develop HCC. So it doesn't mean that his surface antigen is negative there at no risk of HCC. So that's why we sometimes ask for total anti-HBC antibody. And once the anti-HCV is positive, we go for HCV RNA and genotype. Genotype these days is not required. Only RNA is enough.
What about viral load? Does it do you get it regularly, routinely, or only in specific one?
If we do it when the patient comes for in the first consultation, so we get to know whether he's an inactive carrier or he's active.
Yeah.
So if the viral load is quite very low, means he's very unlikely to develop. That's why we ask them to repeat once in a year.
Okay. Okay, ma. I think continue.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Ultrasound
How
abdominal.
frequently you do biopsy to confirm cirrhosis?
So, is it the question is to Santosh?
Might be anyone.
Hello.
I don't know. That's why there you do.
Yeah. Santosh, sir is asking
Sir.
how frequently you recommend biopsy?
When we don't know the etiology, and if the biopsy can give us some information and it can influence the treatment. Suppose autoimmune hepatitis is found in the biopsy, we can start them on steroids.
Okay.
There's something called a seronegative autoimmune hepatitis, where the autoantibodies may be negative, but only on biopsy the autoimmune hepatitis is found out.
So you mean to say when
So
there is
these are
no
the-
obvious cause which can be detected by routine measures, you ask for biopsy?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And but once the patient develops cirrhosis, I think there is no justification to do biopsy because there is a risk of bleeding also.
Okay, but in literature they say you have to do biopsy. That is a definitive way to find out whether there is actual cirrhosis or not, apart from fibroscan. Is it true?
Yes, I mean it's not always done,
Okay.
but that is the most accurate way of doing it.
Okay. And one more thing, what they say is there is no role for biopsy in decompensated liver disease with cirrhosis. If
Yeah.
it is compensated disease, and if you don't know
There
the
is a
cause,
risk of
yes, continue.
Yeah, there is a risk of bleeding, so transabdominal biopsy is not done. There's something called as transjugular liver biopsy, which is done quite often these days.
Okay. By whom
So
is it
suppose the
done?
patient has coagulopathy.
Okay.
It is done by intervention radiology.
Intervention. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like angio, is it? Transjugular.
It's just yeah, they'll go through the jugular and they'll take biopsy so that even if the bleeding happens, it will be into the inferior vena cava or the hepatic veins.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes, sir. Ultrasound is a major screening tool for the diagnosis for the cirrhosis, and it is also useful for to take the biopsy. On ultrasound, the appearance of the liver, it includes surface nodularity. It is around 88% sensitive and 82 to 95% specific, and it also shows overall coarse and heterogeneous echo texture and segmental hypertrophy or atrophy. CT, it is not routinely used in the diagnosis and evaluation of the cirrhosis, and it may be used to detect the hepatic nodularity, atrophy of the right lobe, and hypertrophy of the caudate or left lobes. It is also used to detect ascites and varices, and it is like blood flow through the liver and to differentiate from the tumors. And MRI, it is the role of MRI in the diagnosis of the cirrhosis is unclear. It is limited because of its expense and patient intolerability, but it differentiates regenerating or dysplastic nodules from the hepatocellular carcinoma by accurately determining the nature of the focal lesions. Liver biopsy, it is the gold standard for the diagnosis of the cirrhosis.
Indraja.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Santosh, your comments on radiological investigations? As far as I know, it is more very less sensitive and more specific.
I think
And
the
most of
ultrasound is still the most commonly used investigation. CT, we mainly do it if there is suspicion of HCC or portal vein thrombosis, or when there is alpha fetoprotein being high. So
Correct.
then only we do it. And whatever information is gathered in CT is enough. I mean, it's the same as what we get in MRI. But if there is any doubt whether the nodule is just a regenerative nodule or early HCC, then in addition to CT, MRI will be done.
Okay. So basically, the radiological investigations are not to diagnose cirrhosis, but to diagnose any complications due to cirrhosis.
Yeah, complications, ascites, the ultrasound guided tapping, and to look for portal vein flow and those things.
Okay. Continue, Indraja.
Yes, sir. Yes. Right.
Just a
Yes, sir.
minute, Indraja. Santosh, this hypertrophy atrophy complex, is it
Yes,
due
sir.
to the fibrosis of the bile ducts due to cirrhosis, or?
One of the theories is that there is a redistribution of the blood flow.
Okay.
So we don't know why that happens. The right lobe shrinks and the left lobe hypertrophies. But one of the hypotheses is the vascular redistribution and
Can I continue, sir?
Yeah.
Liver biopsy, it is the gold standard for the diagnosis of the cirrhosis of the liver. It can be obtained by percutaneous route, transjugular, and laparoscopic route. The staging of fibrosis in hepatitis C patients done by using Metavis system, which consists of 4 stages. The liver biopsy is confirmed on liver biopsy. We will able to know about the presence of bridging fibrous septa and parenchymal nodules bearing a mixture of replicating and senescent hepatocytes, and there is disruption of the hepatic vasculature. And liver biopsy should be performed to confirm the diagnosis and to determine the prognosis. The Metavis scoring system, it is used to assess the extent of inflammation and fibrosis by histopathological evaluation in the liver biopsy in patients with hepatitis C infection. The grade indicates a degree of inflammation and stage represents amount of fibrosis. The grade includes around 0 to 3, with A3 is severe activity, and fibrosis stage it is from 0 to 4, and F4 is the cirrhosis. FibroScan, it is a novel, rapid, non-invasive technique that measures the liver stiffness. This is a system equipped with a probe consisting of ultrasonic transducer that mounted an axis of vibrator. A vibration of mild amplitude and low frequency is transmitted from the vibrator to the tissue by a transducer itself. This induces an elastic shear wave that progresses through the tissue. The harder the tissue, the faster is the shear wave propagates. The FibroScan allowed accurate prediction of the hepatic fibrosis in patients with chronic hepatitis C infection. In patients with chronic hepatitis, the stiffness measurements around 2.4 to 75 kilopascals, and it is a median value of 7.4 kilopascals. The increasing the scarring of the liver is associated with increasing stiffness of the tissue. There are different stages.
Wait.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Santosh, this FibroScan, how commonly is it available, or only in few places is it available?
Expensive,
and is it an invasive thing or non-invasive?
It is not an invasive thing. It is similar to ultrasound, where there is a probe and about 10 readings are taken and an average is given, average value. And it is to be done in fasting. At least 3 hours of fasting is required, because when we take food, there is increased blood flow in the postprandial period, and that can increase the stiffness of the liver. So that may give a false high if we do it in patients if they have taken food. FibroScan, again, as I told you, F0 to F4 fibrosis, and then we manage the patients according to their grade. The other times when FibroScan should not be advised is when the bilirubin is more than 3. It will give a false high value, and in ascites patients, we can't do FibroScan.
Okay. And what they say, the probe has to be placed in the intercostal space.
Yes.
Is it
yes.
need to be like just placed there, or it needs to go into the intercostal space? Like they insert a needle or something, or
No,
it
no.
just,
It's
just
just
placed,
a probe
probe placed on the intercostal space.
intercostal space, mainly in the anterior axillary line or slightly medial to the anterior axillary line.
Okay. And how commonly is it available? Is it available in most places or only in liver centers?
No, nowadays, because with the pharma companies having their own FibroScans, they are providing it at hospitals on a rotation basis, once in a month or twice a month. In Sagar
Okay.
also, we have done, for the last 2 months, we have started doing FibroScan, but
Okay.
once in a month.
But so you have to hire them priorly.
No, they come on a fixed date on every month, and we
Okay.
pull in patients, and
Okay.
it takes about hardly 2 minutes.
But who does the scan? The company
There
people
is
or
a
our
technician.
radiologist?
There is a technician for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they interpret based on the waves.
I mean, it's all I mean, there is nothing technician does. Technician has to place the probe.
Okay, it's auto-generated. Okay, the report is
Yes.
auto-generated.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why this is different from the ultrasound related that grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 fatty liver,
Okay.
where it depends on the radiologist's assessment. Here, there is nothing a technician or a doctor can do. It's all in the algorithm and the software.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Santosh, how does it compare in terms of cost? This FibroScan compared to MR elastography, or is MR elastography superior to FibroScan?
MR elastography is superior most of the times, and we can use that in patients who have ascites also, but we can't use FibroScan if the patient has ascites.
Yeah.
And cost wise, I think FibroScan is still cheaper than MR elastography, because most of the MRI centers also don't have that elastography. That is an extra software which they have to buy.
Yeah.
Santosh, Naz madam has few questions. Ma'am, I didn't get your question regarding acoustic window.
No, I think she said basically you place it in the intercostal space to get a acoustic window.
Okay.
The acoustic window.
Yeah. Ma'am has one more question. How do you choose which patient should go for FibroScan?
Any patient with hepatitis, when I say hepatitis, it's ALT or AST elevation. We should check, because as we learned in the pathogenesis, it's the inflammation which is the starting step, and then fibrosis comes. So any elevation, we take it as hepatitis, either it's alcoholic, NASH, viral hepatitis, or for that matter, any cause. So otherwise, if the SGOT, SGPT is normal and a relatively young person with fatty liver, I wouldn't recommend FibroScan.
Santosh,
but again, if there is a family history of liver disease, we should get it done.
Okay. Sometimes the post-viral infections like dengue, there can be altered this one SGOT, SGPT.
Yes.
The bilirubin levels will be normal, but most of them will be asymptomatic. So how do you take those cases? Like you just observe for a few months, or
better we observe, because most of them turn back to normal, and then if it doesn't come back, then we may consider FibroScan.
Now, can I come in?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
please.
madam.
Can this grade 3 fatty liver, should we go for a FibroScan on an ultrasound grade 3 fatty liver?
Yeah, that gives us. I mean, when FibroScan was not there, we used to be. We went ahead and did the liver biopsy to know the extent of fibrosis and any cirrhosis.
Okay.
Now, with the availability of FibroScan, I think we should be doing that FibroScan.
So all these patients with higher grades of fatty liver, then we should go for a fat.
Yeah.
Fibroscans.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
FibroScan is basically non-invasive
Yeah.
kind of liver biopsy. That's all.
And it is more
Okay, okay.
sensitive. It is probably the highest sensitivity in diagnosing liver cirrhosis.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Okay.
Santosh, this familial, Dubin-Johnson, Rotor syndrome, and all these things.
Yes.
Do they ever progress to any cirrhosis or anything, or they are just, sort of innocent findings that are there?
So they are usually, they have jaundice since birth. So they are usually followed up by a proper pediatrician or a pediatric gastroenterologist. So they develop, when Dubin Johnson and Rotors may develop cirrhosis, end-stage liver disease, they develop it at a very young age. So whenever the patient comes with cirrhosis at young age, then we think of metabolic causes, because the metabolic insult is there since birth. So that's what.
Okay. I think if there are no more questions, we'll continue, Indraja.
Yes, sir.
How many slides? How many slides?
Sir, three, four, sir. That's it.
Okay. Finished.
Yes, sir. And the cirrhosis can be divided into different stages. These includes stage 0 to stage 6, depending upon the clinical findings. Stage 0, the patients will have no varices and mild portal hypertension. In stage 1, patients will have clinically significant portal hypertension with hepatic vein portal gradient more than 10 mm Hg. And on stage 3, most of the people will develop varices, and stage 3, in stage 3, patients will bleed from the varices. And stage 4, patients will develop decompensation, and stage 5 is the second decompensation. And in stage 6, most of the patients, it is a late decompensation. Patients will develop refractory ascites and jaundice infections and other dysfunction of the other organs that leads to the acute liver failure and finally death. The annual rates of decompensation are 4% for hepatitis C virus infection and 10% for hepatitis B virus infection. And the incidence of hepatocellular carcinoma is around 2 to 7% per year. Decompensation in alcoholic cirrhosis with continued alcohol is more rapid, and mortality without transplant is around 85% over the 5 years. The degree of liver injury and prognosis can be predicted by two scoring systems. These include a Child-Pugh scoring system and model for end-stage liver disease. The Child-Pugh scoring system, it includes 5 variables, which includes bilirubin, serum albumin, INR, international normalized ratio, and ascites and hepatic encephalopathy. Each variable will give a 1 to 3 points based on the levels. And this based on the points, this cirrhosis is classified into 3 different classes, A, B, C. And Child-Pugh class C indicates higher chance of developing bleeding from the varices when compared to the class A. Model for end-stage liver disease was initially created to predict the...
Indraja, 1 second. Santosh,
Yes,
is this Child-Pugh same as Child-Pugh Turcotte something which has been modified, or is it the same?
Hello. Yeah.
There is something which I read
Hello.
about. Hello, Santosh.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
Hello. Yeah, they're mentioning it as CPT classification. Is this Child-Pugh score the same, or that is different?
Yeah, it's the same thing. CTP.
It's the same.
Child
CPT.
Turcotte.
Yeah. Child-Pugh Turcotte.
Score. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, sometimes you just tell child A, child B, child C. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Continue, Indraja.
Yes, sir. Model for end-stage liver disease, it was initially created to predict the survival of patients who are undergoing transjugular intrahepatic portosystemic shunts. The primary version, it is based on the etiology of the liver cirrhosis, and the present version is incorporated 3 variables. These includes total bilirubin, creatinine levels, and international normalized ratio. Currently, it has been used to rank the priority of the liver transplantation candidates. The patients with cirrhosis must undergo screening for hepatocellular carcinoma for every 6 to 12 months. The screening endoscopy for detection of esophageal varices must be performed within a year in case of compensated cirrhosis and within 3 months in case of complicated cirrhosis. Thank you, sir. So management, I'm going to discuss about in next class, sir.
Indraja. Yes, Niranjan.
Yes,
No,
sir.
nothing, sir. I just wanted to ask if anybody has any doubts. Continue, sir, please.
Indraja.
Yes, sir.
This one, still a lot of grammatical and mistakes you have to try and avoid. The improvement, consistent improvement
Yes,
has to
sir.
be seen. And it is child PU, not child pug.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's child PU classification. And
Okay, sir.
I think, and you are
Okay,
still reading a lot, reading from the slide. That has to stop. You have to be able to just explain what you see on the slide. Slide is only for as a guide. So stop reading from the slide. I think you have made a good effort because it is quite exhaustive, and you have the literature that you have studied is good and it's up to date. And I think you have consulted Dr. Santosh and Niranjan, so that is good. Only thing is you have to improve your presentation skills. And unless you make an effort, you have to practice. Otherwise, you can't just come first time and speak here, because that is in what it shows like. You have to practice your presentation and iron out the different difficulties and everything. Otherwise, it is a good presentation in terms of what you presented. The content is very good.
Yes. Anyone has any questions?
Thanks.
You want to clarify? PGs?
No, sir.
Okay. If there are no more questions, Naz ma'am, your comments?
I think she left, I think, because she's posted a comment saying thank you and all that. So probably she might have left.